Jon Stewart has gotten some attention over the last 48 hours because he has very boldly and aggressively begun to advocate for veterans who, because of the Senate, did not receive enhanced benefits and enhanced health coverage, specifically veterans who were exposed to toxic material and thus got things like cancer because of it while they were in the service. And there was a bill that was previously implemented that addressed that. And so now it comes back up, discussions around it now here in 2022. The Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxics Act of 2021 was the original one, and now they're trying to pass it in 2022. And it didn't get passed in the Senate. And Jon Stewart, someone who has advocated for other people who in the line of duty, had very negative effects due to toxic waste. He had advocated for 9/11 first responders to get their proper benefits, is now out on the front line, kind of getting a bunch of attention stirred up around this issue to make sure that the Senate ends up passing this because they failed to in the recent vote. So we'll first take a look at Jon Stewart's a compilation that the Damage Report put together of Jon Stewart over the last, I think, just 24 hours, maybe 48, on all these different shows, really passionately and emotionally advocating for these individuals. And then we'll kind of get into the specifics of what the bill is and why it's important that we get it passed. But first, him advocating for veterans, here's his response to it not getting passed.
This is an embarrassment to the Senate.
Of course, if you're not familiar with Jon Stewart, he was he used to be the Daily Show host. So political guy, also comedian, and gets involved on different issues like this.
The country, to the founders, and all that they profess to hold dear. And if this is America first, then America is
They don't support the troops. They support the war machine. And that's got to stop. The value in the U.S. military isn't in the toys. It's not in the hardware. It's not in the tanks. It's in the men and women. And until they start supporting them in the manner that they purport to online, they are hypocrites.
It is the most despicable part of this whole thing is watching on the Senate floor, Ted Cruz fist bumping and them patting each other on the back when they blocked this bill. Josh Hawley and Pat Toomey celebrating their victory over veterans with cancer. Way to go, guys. You finally handed it to big veteran with cancer. Well done.
They're never going to hear this. There's an information silo. I was lucky enough to be able to get a hold of Newsmax this morning and go on there. Might have been the first time those viewers had ever heard about it. Fox News, they've refused to put me on all day.
So if there's one group that our government should not neglect to give all the support possible, it is individuals who went and fought for our country, and because of those actions and that commitment to our country, were exposed to just generally all veterans, of course, but then even more kind of emotionally charged is someone who went and got exposed to, radiation poisoning or toxins of some kind that gave them cancer. And now we're not giving them everything that they need to get through that and to be healthy. So to kind of analyze what's in this act and why it's important they get it, a breakdown by HITC. For the unversed, the Pact Act, or Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act of 2021, is a comprehensive bill that addresses healthcare, research, resources, the presumption of service connection, and other matters related to veterans who get exposed to toxic substances during their time in the military. It was originally introduced in the Senate on June 17, 2021. If passed, the bill would enable $400 billion over the next 10 years in spending. The bill is meant to do the following: expansion of healthcare eligibility, so more veterans being able to be eligible for this expanded healthcare coverage, toxic exposure presumption process, improving the establishment of service connection process for toxic exposed veterans, and then improvement of resources and training regarding toxic exposed veterans, and much more. So the kind of most dumbed down version of it is veterans who were exposed to toxicity that is now causing health effects, getting extra levels of support, extra level of healthcare due to that, which I think is a no-brainer. Obviously, Jon Stewart thinks it's a no-brainer. If you go serve our country and end up having devastating health effects because of it, or even minor health effects, Every bit of that process, every bit of it should be taken care of. But then, of course, to give a fair shake to why people voted against it, it was primarily Republicans, but Democrat too. Chuck Schumer actually voted against it. So they do argue their side of it that we'll look at here. To be fair, while not all Republican senators who voted against the Pact Act have publicly explained why they did so, several have offered insight on why the GOP opposition grew after the initial vote in June. So initial vote higher than it is now. A release from GOP Senator Pat Toomey's office on Tuesday said that the Pact Act would enable $400 billion over the next 10 years in spending completely unrelated to veterans. So the talking point from Republicans, specifically Pat Toomey, is that, listen, I'm fine, and again, this is from his perspective, I'm fine supporting the veterans in this situation, but a lot of this money isn't going towards that particular purpose. And a lot of times, they call that pork whenever there's something in a bill that is unrelated that is trying to kind of get passed along with it. That's not my impression. I think this whole bill should be passed as is. And this is often the cop out. Oh, I would if it was just this, and this. But there's other stuff. So that's why I'm going to vote against the entire thing. So interesting. Continuing on, it noted that Toomey, a Pennsylvania lawmaker, has a technical fix that does not reduce spending on veterans by even $1 or affect the expansion of care and benefits in the underlying bill. The Pact Act, as written, includes a budget gimmick. This is from Pat Toomey's office, that would allow $400 billion of current law spending to be moved from the discretionary to mandatory spending category. It went on, this provision is completely unnecessary to achieve. So then it goes on to explain why he's against that provision and why, therefore, he's against the entire bill right now as is. Someone else, quote, Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas, has also commented on why the effort to advance the legislation was unsuccessful. He quoted in a Wednesday CNN article as saying that Schumer would not allow amendment votes the Republicans were pushing for. So to be fair to Chuck Schumer, the reason that he is citing for changing his vote from a yes to a no is for some reason that would allow a future vote to happen. So it sounds like he originally had his vote at yes, but then changed it to no. This is a Republican opposed bill for sure. And it looks like Chuck Schumer does want to eventually get it passed. So to be as fair as possible and honest as possible to Chuck Schumer, that is the case. So like I said, overall, I think this bill is absolutely necessary, absolutely good. We should treat veterans, especially those in this specific situation, as honorably and expansively as possible, give them the help they need. And I love the passion and energy that Jon Stewart is bringing to this issue. I honestly have no doubt that it'll eventually get passed with some adjustments. And hopefully that's what Chuck Schumer's trying to do right now. And hopefully we'll see these veterans get what they need.